the president doesn't believe in governance, so he doesn't care if governance doesn't take place. He doesn't appreciate the role of public policy in the lives of the American people.
Why is the pandemonium of shutdown blame all on President Trump? Nancy Pelosi recently made it clear that she is constitutionally equal in power to the president. So wouldn't she be equally responsible? Aren't Pelosi and Schumer just as emotional as they claim Trump is?
American democracy doesn't work that way. We don't govern by temper tantrum.
And if the whining Democrats actually care about working American citizens more than their party line,
which prescription do I fill? These are real questions my constituents are now asking themselves. Throwing a temper tantrum and threatening to keep the government shut down only reflects the president's lack of compassion for the citizens of this great country.
Why do they continue to ignore the sobering reality when confronted by government statistics from the past decade that reveal tens of thousands of assaults, robberies, murders, and sexual assaults on the children and adult citizens of America by illegal aliens? Maybe the Marxist sheep Democrats just want to ignore the blinding reality that it is their constituents that are being raped and murdered also. An obvious sign of mental illness.
The Democrats are holding this up because they don't want it. They think it's good politically. I think it's a disaster for them politically, but I'm not doing it for politics. I'm doing it because it's right.
To use them as hostages through a temper tantrum by the president is just so wrong, so unfair, so mean-spirited. It ought to end, and it ought to end now.
And that, in a nutshell, is what we as the American people are dealing with. Democratic leadership that has embraced empty virtue-signaling rhetoric backed up by damning Marxist critical theory intended on neutralizing the executive office and the will of at least half of the American population that supports the president. A new Democratic Party existing in a liberal echo chamber where, for the first time in history, moderates no longer dare to tread, according to a recent Gallup poll.
A wall we don't need that is justified by racist, bigoted, nativist, xenophobic rhetoric we heard last night on television from the President of the United States. One of the most sordid moments in the history of the Oval Office.
Did you watch his speech last night? I mean, it was blatant. It was blatant.
Blatant what?
Then he started talking about, well, African Americans and Latinos don't want this stuff happening. I mean, what was that supposed to be about? Tell me that. If not about inserting race in a way that was intended to create fear and division.
America proudly welcomes millions of lawful immigrants who enrich our society and contribute to our nation. But all Americans are hurt by uncontrolled, illegal migration. It strains public resources and drives down jobs and wages. Among those hardest hit are African Americans and Hispanic Americans.
The Democrats will never own this shutdown. They operate on hubris, hell-bent on ultimately forcing national security to cave to the demands of foreign interests and the United Nations Replacement Migration Plan, a plan feeding on the Cloward and Piven strategy madness already succeeding in Europe, a strategy intended on overloading the U.S. public welfare system in order to precipitate a crisis leading to a replacement of the welfare system with a national system of guaranteed annual income, a strategy already forming the finishing stages amongst the socialist Democrats flooding the chambers of our republic. That is the madness President Trump is up against. The future of our republic and its sovereignty need that wall. We need that wall. And if we don't get it, Pelosi and Schumer and their party of obstructionist Marxist zealots will force true Americans to reevaluate the need for a Democratic Party. In his farewell address, George Washington warned that the political parties, or factions as they were called, endangered the public interest. He warned that the American people should be aware of sectionalism, a predominant sentiment among Pelosi and her California cohorts, and Schumer and his New York State socialists. These minions of the corporatocracy have tried and failed miserably to fix our broken immigration system. And along comes a president that can solve something they never could.
And it would be a lot easier for me not to do this. It would be a lot easier not to say anything and let this go on. This should have been taken care of 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. It should have been taken care of. I've seen all the speeches made by all the presidents and a lot of people that worked under the presidents. And you say, what happened? Nothing happened.
One thing there's not a lot of in Washington is backbone. And I want to commend you for helping infuse some more backbone in Washington. This is a fight the people of Texas and the American people want the borders secured.
Essentially, the Democrats have already built a wall, one between their party of lunatics and the will of the American people. John Bowne reporting.